Welcome to the Top 1% Men podcast by LGFG Fashion House, where we interview millionaires and billionaires and other men who fit within the top 1% as verifiable by quantifiable metrics such as wealth, physical fitness, and other notable life achievements. On the Top 1% of Men podcast, participation trophies don't count and man buns are not allowed. Okay, so I got Dave Mezheritsky, so I know Dave. And we're going to talk about Dave, but welcome to the Top 1% Man podcast. You guys know that we only interview the top 1% of men as we can measure with quantifiable numbers. No participation trophies allowed on the Top 1% podcast. Now, I've known you for a while. I want to just go in the lightning round to start with, okay? What was how old were you when you bought your first Lamborghini?
Oh, first of all, is David.
We're going to call him David.
I'm kidding. It's King David, not King Dave. I'm just kidding.
That's fair. How old were you when you bought your first Lamborghini?
23 years old.
23, you bought your first Lamborghini.
That's
so
right.
You were supposed to be in university. What were you doing?
I dropped out of university and I started an online company. I liked the idea at the time of selling
What
things
year was
online. The company start?
Yeah.
I was about 18, 19, so that would be 1999.
Okay, so 1999, you started a company selling products online.
That's right.
Who was doing that in 99? This was before all these funnels and everything?
Before Amazon.
Yeah.
Kind of missed that one. I should have started Amazon.
Okay, so you started selling products
on eBay.
On eBay. What are you selling?
I actually sold men's accessories.
Like?
Luggage, bags, belts, a whole bunch of things I can get my hands on out of China at a really good price. I got inspired after I ended up at a trade show in Guangzhou. I was a 17-year-old kid, just dropped out of high school.
What were you doing in Guangzhou?
I dropped out of university, sorry.
Right, but what were you doing in Guangzhou?
Well, how far back you want to go on this?
Well, you're 17 or 18 years old and you go to China.
I went to high school in Vancouver, British Columbia that has predominantly Asian kids.
Okay.
And I was in the boarding school and I became friends with all these interesting kids from Hong Kong and Shanghai.
Was it a private school?
Yes.
Okay. By the way, I want to make an interjection here. Talk with my wife about this. I think it's so important. If you're not in a wealthy neighborhood, get your kids into a private school. It's not about the education because you didn't finish university. It's about the people you meet.
I also don't remember anything from high school other than the people I met and the sports we played.
But you ended up in Guangzhou.
I ended up in Guangzhou because my father did do some work in Asia, but a lot of these kids were inviting me like, hey, come hang out. Our parents have factories. Our parents have a trade show. Like, come to China. We'll take care of you. And I was like, you know what? I'm dropping out of this whole Queen's University thing, which is another, Elon Musk dropped out of Queen's.
Sure.
No, we're not on the same page.
Right. So remember, kids, if you're in Queens, drop out.
Drop out. Well, Bill Gates and others have dropped out. I'm not recommending to drop out,
right.
But I had a real drive to be an entrepreneur, and I didn't feel the university was going to get me to where I want to be and to let my skills kind of come out. So I just dropped the school and I flew to China.
Now, on your way to China, are you thinking I'm going to look at some bags and accessories to sell, or that just kind of came to you there?
No.
Okay.
I was curious, and I knew that there were some opportunities there. And at the time, things were a lot cheaper there than they are now.
Right.
But there's still obviously markets to exploit now. But I knew that there could be something interesting there. So I went to a trade show there, and I got inspired a bunch of things I saw.
Okay.
And I decided to make my own kind of fashion brand because that was first.
You made an eBay shop.
I made a little eBay shop,
okay.
And I started kind of curating things that I found fashionable, stylish, which is kind of similar to what you do, but not tailor-made.
But here's the question. So, but then why are people buying these bags online from you? Like, what made you different from anybody else?
Okay. Well, we made something unique within the parameters of not having to spend a lot of money on molds or anything like that. So I made it like a slimmer looking case. At the time, little iPads were coming out, little thin Macs, and the iPhone kind of thing. So I made this display of a slim, attractive case and accessories that would.
Did you believe it was going to sell?
I liked it, so I thought that if I like it, someone else might like it. Because I generally I feel like I have pretty good taste,
right.
And that's was backed up by the demand.
So let me back it up for a second. So you're in China and you're like, I'm going to sell these cases, and you start an eBay store, and people actually start going to your store. Because that's kind of nuts to me. Because like today you start a store, it's like 1 million people selling iPhone cases.
It is nuts. Now when I look back, a lot of stuff I did, it felt nuts. Yeah.
And is that how you bought your first Lamborghini at 23? It was selling suitcases and iPhone cases?
No.
Okay.
That business led me to find a company that was producing small two-wheeled gas-powered motorcycles in China. And then I thought to myself that this could be a really good opportunity. They just come off license producing them for Honda. And I had already, 4 years of experience of selling things online and trading with China. So I stepped up and I told them I'll give it a try with
Let me ask you a question.
Small
so
20-foot container.
Selling cases is this profitable right here.
Yeah.
How profitable compared to that was selling motorcycles?
Well, actually, it's different. Actually, selling the cases is far more profitable than selling the motorcycles.
But the package size is
way bigger. The ticket price is larger,
and
the demand was significantly bigger.
Okay.
So you're able to accumulate, $1 million. I remember that day very clearly. I was dealing with like the bank teller level banker at TD Bank in Vancouver.
And you're like, what, 23, 22 at this age?
I was like 22 or 23.
Yeah.
And in one Christmas time, me and my former partner, Vlad, we sold so many of these little gas-powered pocket bikes under our own brand that we made on eBay and our own website that some of my Ukrainian and Russian programmer friends helped set up and market.
Yeah.
That the bank account just had like $1 million in it after 8-9 weeks of my first 8 containers that I imported. I convinced a bunch of people to help me pull this off, even the warehouse space and the initial little bit of capital. Like there was quite a bit of stuff for the initial move. But then it was just that money was there. And that teller level banker.
Yeah, they're just, what the hell?
He's like, what the fuck? He's like, looking at me, he's like 23 years old or something. I'm like, I sold these bikes that I brought.
They don't believe you, do they?
Not right away.
Like, let me get my
manager. They came out of the warehouse, and then I was like, I have bought twice as much now. I have like 16 or 20 containers now coming from China. And he kind of got comfortable, and then immediately put me into like a corporate level banker person, not his level. And they started hooking me up with, it was a very big learning curve because I didn't come from any financial education.
You dropped out.
I dropped out. My parents are not entrepreneurial in that sense. I had no one to teach me or lead me that. So there was a lot of learning of, accounting, lawyers, bankers, financing, all that stuff. But I dropped out. I mean, those teachers, you could tell right away in university, there's nothing entrepreneurial about university.
Well, who's going to be a teacher? Like I always tell people, like, don't learn entrepreneurship from teachers because they're in the least entrepreneurship profession of all. They grow, like they wake up at 7 years old and they go to school, or 6 years old, and then they just stay in that environment for their whole life. So they never actually leave that environment, right?
You would hope that they would bring in some kind of real entrepreneurs to speak in a business type school, but at the end of the day, they're preparing these students to be working in a corporate structure.
Right.
And then I realized I don't want to be learning statistics. Well, I know you love statistics,
they're fine.
But for the purpose of entrepreneurship,
Sure.
It's a lot more artistic than statistical.
Yeah, well, I didn't think about myself as an entrepreneur at all. Like I was just kind of shocked to discover that when people started saying I'm creative, I was like, what? Like, because, I think a lot of entrepreneurs, I watch like Gary V videos, and he's like, oh, at like 12 years old, I was trading baseball cards and running my dad's wine shop. I'm like, I wasn't doing any of that. I was just in school and I was being a good student, and I like being a good student. I like that sort of, I think I was just in the matrix, and then eventually, as I kind of got into the corporate thing, I'm like, I really, really don't like this. And you knew you wouldn't like it. I didn't know.
What I learned from school was learning how to learn, which is one of the most valuable things that you can learn in school, which is now I'm able to quickly figure something out, right? You assess the information, what needs to be done, let's get through this like quickly, I can get the whole concept. That's what I took away from school, and I apply that daily. But I think real entrepreneurialism is very artistic. It is like you're producing an artistic vision, right? That you're selling to your employees, to your bankers, to your own self every day.
To yourself is huge.
You're selling that future.
Yep.
You have to be optimistic, and you have to be artistic in it. Because it's creative by nature. Not following the box.
This. But you're putting in like hundreds of thousands of dollars. Bringing crates in from China. You're in your early 20s. Are you afraid that it's going to go sideways? You're just going to lose all that money? Like, did that keep you up at night?
Never for a moment.
Really? Okay.
I worry about more stuff today than I ever have.
Why is that?
Because now you have something to lose.
I got it. Okay. So at the time you're taking these major risks, and you're like, whatever, if I fail, I fail. Or you don't really see that downside.
The failure didn't even enter my mind.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So you're just like, I see an opportunity.
Maybe because you really don't have anything to lose, and that's just a default mode.
Yeah.
But no, you just 100% believe that this is going to work.
Okay.
Because you already have some data, right? Well,
if you were good at statistics, you might have not taken that chance, because, now we might look at the internet and see some rich 23-year-olds, but back in like the late 90s, it just didn't happen because you didn't have these sort of quasi, today you have like the cryptos and all these kind of, you have the internet, which is a big thing. Then late 90s, I mean, we had the internet on like 28K, dial-up modems. We didn't really have all that sort of infrastructure to learn from. You just kind of had to go blind a lot,
But at the same time, I guess, this thing, the Russian expression my dad likes to say is like, you don't walk into the flowing river with both of your feet.
Right. You
so
dip your toes, sure.
I'm doing one. So there was some like original A/B testing type of concept. So my very first attempt, I wasn't buying 10 containers at once. I bought a small minimum and we tried, and I have some data and I know that this is likely to work. I can see the demand is pent up. So my next step is much larger and with a whole lot of confidence, right? And that's how we still do things to this day when we're testing on new products or new ways of...
Are you still primarily selling two-wheelers that are, powered by gasoline, or is it now more electric? What are you doing now?
Well, that's a great question. We've moved on now. We're kind of becoming the Tesla of motorcycles, on-road motorcycles. So really excited about what's happening there. So we've really matured as a company. We're over 20 years old now.
Right.
So we've produced, that's how old.
Yeah.
We've produced an on-road motorcycles that are actually just now going live in Canada and North America as well. Licensable, full electric drive, really beautiful design, high quality. We have all the parts. We have a super competitive price.
Yep.
And we're opening up our own dealerships as well as distributing into great dealership partnerships that we're involved in. So this is kind of the next stage in the growth of our company we're excited about. And I'm trying to position us to be like if not Tesla of two wheels on the road, but maybe more like Volkswagen or something where we're really accessible to the common man as an actual solution.
Yes.
Before, what I think real entrepreneurialism is about solving problems for people.
Right.
So before, what I was doing wasn't so much about solving anyone's problem. I was just selling them something that they may or may not want.
Okay.
Like, hey, Dima, do you want to buy this four-wheeler for your kids today? They can roll around your backyard. And you're like, yeah, I like this as a nice idea. Yeah. Maybe I'll buy it if you give me a good thing.
You're moving from luxury into essential.
And I see this happening now with transportation solutions, is what's happening in urban centers. Transportation becoming more difficult. I don't know how much you want to focus on this part, but you'll see this 15-minute city coming in. And we are offering a solution that's highly cost-effective for people to get around urban centers with a variety of our
I have a solution for 15-minute cities as well. Blow the heads off the politicians that are pushing this bullshit.
Well,
but that's a different podcast.
It is a different podcast. But we see that coming in. And I think the age of the individual car, we're kind of at the end of that now.
Interesting.
And even though it all seems very real right now, when
and you think bikes are actually like a legible solution for this?
I think that electric transportation solutions in urban centers is the way of the future. Okay. And they may look like cars, like Teslas. They may look like very simplified type of four-wheelers and two-wheelers and different other scooter type things as you already see them. We make all these products.
You make scooters?
Every single one of them.
That's where you're in the right place in Estonia. Bolt was founded here, and they have scooters all over the world in different cities.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I actually was just randomly reading about the Bolt founder today.
The Magnus or the other guy?
Marcus.
Marcus. Which one's our client? One of them is getting shirts from us. LGFG Fashion House, I think Marcus is the one getting shirts from us, right?
Really incredible, actually, for Estonia being such a small country and having so many huge successful entrepreneurial people coming out of it, like Skype and now Bolt, and I think a few.
So let me ask you a question. This is different because we interviewed guys that started their business at 26 and kind of started making it a bit later. Some came from families, big families, sort of groomed in this environment that one day you might be going into the family business. We've had entrepreneurs that made it much later, but you actually, you made a lot of money very young. I mean, relatively speaking, 22, 23 years old. I was, what was I? I think I was still finishing university. And I remember that, right? Like I wasn't cashing $1 million checks to the bank and buying Lamborghinis, but did that substantially change the trajectory of your life and just the way that you saw life by making that money early?
That's a really complicated and a great question, but I don't even know how to answer that.
Because you don't know the difference between what it would have been like. Yeah.
I don't have the test case of what I would be like if I made it later, didn't make it at all, or if my grandfather that was Estonian didn't have his stuff taken away from him by the Soviets, and then I was inheriting a bunch of wealth, and I would have been a lazy prick like some of my friends I went to this high school with. Sure. Right? So I don't know, but I made it. right? So I mean, I made it like I'm not dead. So I could have crashed my car, done too much, whatever.
Well, that was actually my next question.
Drugs,
It's like,
drinks.
just because you are making it young, like, does that lead to a certain hedonism without the self-control that some years of wisdom would have brought at that age? Because for me, if I was given the playground at 22 years old, I don't know what the heck I would do, because I would just have no boundaries. I'd be like, oh yeah, man,
Well, a bit of that happened.
Yeah.
But the truth is that I was always like quite a responsible guy. I was always like a little adult, even at 15 or 19. So I kept things under control. But of course, I mean, why not? I took the risk, and I got to enjoy the benefits of it. I threw some great parties. I dated lots of beautiful women. I like sports cars. I did car rallies. I traveled, and I still, but it's different now.
You can hang out with me. I mean, that's a big thing, guys. That's, you're watching this. You wish you.
I hang out most of the time with you now.
It's good times.
We talk about our health.
Mostly cars. Hey, and watches, by the way, nice piece. So, hey, so here's the thing. So let me kind of wrap up with those guys. So like, everybody's sort of different when it comes to being successful and being like a top 1% man. So far, we've interviewed like 3 guys that have been married for a long time. We interviewed a guy that's like in a long-term relationship. He's not married, but he's been with a girlfriend. You've kind of been more of a bachelor during the last, let's say, decade and a half.
Most of my life.
Which is interesting, because that's a different take on what we've seen, because 85% of millionaires are married, and you're in the minority on this. You're in the 15%.
Interesting.
What do you think about that? I mean, that's a legitimate question, right?
Well, it's a good question. I haven't met my match yet.
Okay.
I would like to have wife and children just like you. I think it gives you a good base, a great foundation,
that's
and maybe that's where the next stage of growth of my company and my life will come from.
Well, I wanted to ask because, for me, like when I was single and I was sort of like working and stuff, I found that the single aspect of my life brought a lot of chaos into an already chaotic life, and that was just how I felt, because I knew that there was a lot of uncertainty when you're single. There's good uncertainty, bad uncertainty, but uncertainty nonetheless. And then sort of stabilizing and bringing like just that order into my personal life allowed me to really focus on all the other stuff. And I think it's harder to do it the way you did it, because you had that uncertainty and chaos in the personal aspect that you're still having to, you're hunting for clients, you're hunting for a girlfriend. Both of these things are happening simultaneously.
So we've discussed this a few times together personally, and I think that may have just hit you earlier in life than me.
Yeah.
My personal experience over my more chaotic business career, because at right now today, I don't do so much day to day. I have great managers in place, and the amount of everything, it's not relevant anymore. Like the drive is not there anymore. So now I feel like I can take on a wife, because for me personally, a woman brings chaos to my life.
Oh boy.
It's the other way around.
I'm the opposite, right? Yeah.
So the truth is, when I did have 2 serious girlfriends during this 15 years of really intense work between 25 and 40, let's say. Is that right, math?
Sure.
Yeah,
close enough.
Yes. I always felt that this woman was creating unnecessary chaos, and I'm not able to focus on my business.
Maybe like crazy women.
And I always felt that if I had this woman in my life, there would be no way that I could achieve this success.
Interesting.
And could never focus on my work because it was completely all-consuming.
Right.
And it required my complete focus.
Right.
And then I have nothing left to give to her.
Well, so this actually, when I started dating my now wife, and I told her at the beginning of the relationship, like, I'm ambitious, I work a lot. You're not going to see me all the time because I'm going to be on this mission. And it's like, you just have to sign up for that life. And she was like, I gotcha. And she understood that, and she's been very understanding about it. It sounds like potentially, maybe I'm wrong on this, correct me if I'm wrong, but like your relationship with somebody and you have this life going on and you're like, okay, like, that's my life. And she's just like, no, it's about me. And then you have to make a decision to cut her loose or hang on. It sounds like you might have hung on a little longer than you should have.
Probably.
Because if she's bringing chaos to your life, it's like, I would have a conversation, be like, hey, I'm not a 9-to-5 dude that's driving the same road to be a mechanic every day. All the love to our mechanic guys. It's like, but I'm not that dude. Like, I have so much chaos in my professional life because of the business I'm building and the risks I'm dealing with and the fires I'm putting out, which are like so incomprehensible to 99.9% of people, that I cannot come home and argue about something. Like, I just need it my way.
Yeah, I get that.
And if it's not, it's okay. You can walk out. It's just how I need it.
See how many different possible ways there is about this. But for me, I just needed 100% focus on my work.
Right.
And to me, that woman was a distraction, always a distraction.
Right.
Even if she wasn't super chaotic or demanding, I just felt that I would not be able to engage with her at 100%, that to give my energy to her as well.
Right.
There'll be nothing for that.
Fair enough. Okay.
And I really feel now that I've automated the business to the point, delegated to the point where I'm utterly useless. And now I feel like I've earned kind of that position where I can now comfortably take on a wife, try and set up a family, and just have the peace, the business in a state of peace, where I'm more like a chairman.
Have you thought about, did you think of that same way 10 years ago?
Absolutely not. This is
really
fairly.
So this is retrospective. I mean, but 10 years ago, would you have been like, if I meet a girl, I'll marry her now? Or you'd be like, no, I'm still going to wait until I'm useless in my business and then I can.
Oh, no, I wouldn't actively, let's say, terminate a relationship for this kind of goal. But it just, now I understand why it never worked out.
I understand. So but you are becoming more strategic.
Way more strategic.
Were you strategic when you were 20?
Not at all.
Really? So, but how do you build a business if you don't think you're strategic?
Intuitive.
Ah, okay. So you were being guided by the invisible hand.
Correct.
That's a principle I think most people cannot understand. And we've had this discussion about the invisible hand that just sometimes guides you. And you just do it. It's like, you got to do it.
I'm 100% an example of the invisible hand.
Yeah.
I'm not strategic in my business when I was younger.
Okay.
I was just driven, very motivated.
Yeah.
And I was never driven by money itself. I was always driven by freedom. The purpose of dropping out of school and the purpose of creating my own business was to be able to travel where I want, when I want, with whom I want, and make my day schedule how I want.
And yet you're building a business that's basically acquiescing to the 15-minute city, huh? Not about money, is it?
Well, it just seemed to fall into that.
Originally,
yeah,
everyone else can be under the guiding hand of the good overlords of government, but not you.
Who knew?
Supplying them.
Who knew? I started just selling kids for toys. Kids for toys.
Whoa! Here's the real. This is where the real money is. Let's go.
Kids for toys.
Yeah,
that's very funny.
What kind of toys are you getting there?
Toys.
And where are you getting these
toys for kids? I'm also dyslexic, apparently.
Right.
Toys for kids, and then it just turned into lithium batteries and scooters and motorcycles and mobility solutions. And now the most product we sell is actually stuff for senior people, for the mobility scooters and all the stuff that goes into them. Like, because the largest demographic statistics group in the United States are the baby boomers.
Right.
And they're aging quickly, and they are buying these mobility scooters from us every day. So it's becoming quite a bigger piece than our motorcycle business at the moment. So,
all right, on a wrap up. So let me ask you this. Like, here's the real question I ask is like a lot of guys watching this, obviously, they don't have a mentor in their life or anybody they know that at 23 years old was at the bank, cashing a check for $1 million. It didn't exist in their life, and they want to know about that. They want to learn from that. They want to one of the things you didn't mention is like, yes, you have great intuition, but you also learn from your mistakes. That's really important. You didn't keep repeating the same mistakes over and over. When you saw something didn't work, we talked about this, you just changed direction. Okay, that doesn't work. You didn't quit on what you were doing, but you adjusted the process to get the outcome you wanted. But what kind of advice right now would you give to a 20-year-old guy that's just like sitting around going, man, what do I do with my life and to become successful? And they come to you, and what do you tell them? What are some things that have worked for you?
Well, never really been asked that question, but I would say fail quickly and do something that you're pretty passionate about.
Why?
Because you're going to need a lot of energy to truck that through.
Because shit sucks sometimes.
It's going to suck real bad, like a lot of the time, where you're going to be questioning, why am I doing this? Why did I get into this?
Yeah.
What's the point of this?
Right. And have you had those points in your business over 20 years?
I have that like yesterday.
Crazy.
Yeah, that all the time. You're like,
right.
Why
I always tell people, because people think like, oh, that voice goes away. It's like, no, that voice of giving up never goes away. The doubt never goes away. You just get better at negotiating with it.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
And that what you were mentioning is exactly it. There's no right answer. You're just failing. You're learning. You fail, you learn, and then you adjust course. It's like a very quick trial and error where you're trying to, pick the lock to this thing. Every big company has always, I think, gone through that, unless they just know exactly what.
No, I mean, Nintendo started as a board game company, and all of these other examples we can go through. How many companies started, but they're not doing the thing they started at. They just iterated. Like, you didn't start selling lithium batteries for geriatric scooters, and yet there it is.
Yeah, if someone told me that a decade ago, I'd never believe them.
Yeah.
And then I would say, as soon as what you've created allows, build the best team that you can.
Yes.
Around yourself. And it doesn't mean, helpers and employees if someone is trying to envision that.
Right.
I mean, even just your accountant, your
I've been
lawyers,
burned by that, haven't you? Can I ask you a question? This is now kind of going over time, but like, have you ever been fucked by people on your team? Like, just fucked?
Well,
don't tell names or stories, but like, has it happened?
Of course.
Has it cost you like hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars when it happened?
Well, thank God, not millions, but easily 50, 100,000 here and there.
Just a pop,
like straight up, one was straight up theft.
Yeah.
Second was just like a kind of a fraud and overbilling,
we've had
things like that. So that's the reality. So you want to have those checks and balances in place, the best of your ability.
Well, one thing I'll tell you, I learned from you is I asked you about 3-4 years ago how much you paid like this one guy in your business. You gave me the number, and I was shocked at how much money that person makes, because the position. And then I realized like the reason you're paying that person that much is because they're in a position of high responsibility and you trust them. And what you're really paying for is the trust premium. And I made a policy change in my company soon thereafter, where my top management team went to a profit share scheme, not a salary scheme, because now they have skin in the game. And those people, it's like, yes, there may be some things they're not 100% great at each aspect of their jobs. And I've had those conversations as much as this morning, but it's the trust you pay the premium for, because they're going to stick with you and they're not going to fuck you over. And that's huge.
Your interests become aligned.
Yeah.
He's part of your team now.
Yeah.
And I pay for that trust, but I also pay for my freedom. For me, there's another premium on top of that, because I'm also leaving it where I can come travel and see you in Estonia, and travel to Turkey tomorrow and go wherever I want. So we have an agreement that's another extra fee.
Hey man, good for you for, obviously striking gold early. Not everybody is so fortunate, but I know that it's not about being fortunate, it's also about being disciplined, diligent, honest with yourself, transparent with yourself, having that positive self-talk with yourself and having the positive outlook with yourself and your business. So that's a lot of very good decisions over an exceedingly long period of time. And there is a level of intuition, but also strategy. So I think that's fantastic. And Dave Mezheritsky, Top 1% Man podcast. Thank you.